In my quest to become an inventor, I thought I need to study inventing. And the most important thing I found was a tiny little book written in 1912. In the first paragraph it said, if you've got a great idea, line up behind Jules Verne and Rube Goldberg. But if you have an idea that solves a problem, you stand to make good money from it. And the second paragraph said, always remember, there's a big difference between a good idea and a good idea that people will spend their hard-earned money on. And I thought, that guy's right. They had like 30 ideas of things that I could introduce in cycling, and that brought it to about 3. I looked at pedals and I thought, what can I do to really improve clipless pedals? And the biggest opportunity there was to make them double-sided so that you don't have to flip them over to get in. This was the technology that they introduced, and it was basically a ski binding that had been adapted to a bicycle. My idea there was, forget skiing, let's design a bicycle pedal for cyclists. When I finally came up with the idea for the lollipop-shaped road pedal, it checked all the boxes. It had a lower stack height, it was half the weight, it had better cornering clearance, it had double-sided entry, it had float. It basically did everything I wanted it to do, better than anything had done before, so I really felt that it was going to be a game changer. As a company, we've never really been about having a new product every time the trade show comes around. We only introduce something when we feel that we've got a substantive technological solution. We've really avoided being driven by fashion. We're more driven by function. We've been really busy behind the scenes. The scissor was a real challenge. It was probably the biggest challenge I've ever had to overcome from a technology standpoint. The biggest change that mountain bike pedals needed, and I think it was a universal ask of anybody that I talked to, was to make them more stable, to make them feel like a road pedal when you ride on them. The flaw is that they drive the power through the rubber sole of the shoe. I think you shouldn't have rubber be part of your transmission link. It should be a solid interface. And so with the scissor, my goal was to make it stable and make it adjustable so that when you were on it, you couldn't tell the difference between it or a road pedal. I thought it would be easier than it was, but it turned out to be, a 4-year-plus R&D effort to solve the issues that we ran into. I quickly learned why everybody doesn't solve all of these things. Sliding surfaces made out of metal, they tend to stick together when they get wet and muddy. That stopped us in our tracks because we wanted Holy Grail, and every time we got near it, it just didn't work. And the eureka moment with the scissor was introducing ceramic components to the mix. It gave us two things. It gave us the stability and the tight tolerances we were looking for in the interface, and it's not affected by dirt, it's not affected by moisture. Probably the biggest challenge I've ever had to overcome from a technology standpoint. In 2006, we made a prototype zero pedal that was basically just cut away, so if the guys had to step in mud during the races on the pave, it would give them some mud clearance in the pedal. We never really intended to make it, but the first time we used it was with Fabian Cancellara, and he won Paris-Roubaix on it. The gravel bike thing was starting to take off, and it started to make a little bit more sense to launch it as a product. Paralleling that, we also had discovered this ceramic technology, and although we introduced the pave with ceramic parts in it, we saved the story for the introduction of the scissor. Realizing how big an advantage aerodynamics was, even in the pedal category, it made us think there was an opportunity to take it much further. And so we had this walkable system and we had this aerodynamic system, and at a certain point we realized that we made this walkable cover that replaced the standard zero cleat. When you combine it with a single-sided aerodynamic shaped zero, it became an aerodynamic system, and that gave us a lot of advantages over current technology. that's what I do when I ride, is I'm constantly thinking, where can I go next? And there's plenty of room for improvement. The sky's the limit as far as making things better.